Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the threat that Trump poses to this nation, to the people who supported him. We will pick up the mantle to educate the people about his actions, from being dictator on day one, pardoning January 6th domestic terrorists, implementing Project 2025, and any other draconian measures he tries to pass. And now, the resistance begins. Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the show, I'll give the phone number out later, but it's 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. When I show the image up on the screen, you will know that we are ready to take phone calls. But first, we like to record some stuff and do some, other planned topics, and then we can go off the cuff, if you will. Call in, conservative, liberal, progressive, leftist, whatever you want to call yourself, as long as you're not a Nazi. Call in, and we can chat about some issues for a little bit after I talk about the other issues that I plan to talk about. Impeccable Living is in the chat.
Oh my!
And so is Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
We've also got Jolie, Josh, Botrix, and let's see, Scott Frayu, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Alton Gillespie, Progressively Independent, Big Hook. I did notice that Hal was going over time, so I can delay a little bit. What's up, my friend over on Twitch? Good to see you. Nice to see you, Connie. Very nice to have you stopping by. Appreciate you. What else we got going on? Let's see, did I miss anybody else over here in the chat? No, I haven't. What are we going to talk about today? Lots of different stuff to talk about. Don't quite yet have enough for headlines, but let's talk about a little. So Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day, so we Liberal Dan Radio, we appreciate the sacrifices that people gave. Our country apparently doesn't appreciate the, what sacrifices people made as serving our country and dying in service of our country, because a lot of the people who died serving our country died fighting Nazis, and now we've elected Nazis into our government, if not by name but by action. So how are we showing our respect to the people who died in service of this country, also veterans who served but didn't die in the line of duty? But of course, today is about the people who died in the line of duty, and as such, want to give shouts out to them. But of course, Donald Trump made it all about him. He starts talking about like what was it? She starts attacking Biden and how the last 4 years were terrible and making it all political, and then he starts talking about the big golden dome that he's going to build, and every single thing possible that he could bring up to make everything, because he always makes everything about him. Every single damn thing is about him. It's frustrating to have a president that acts that childish. And apparently he also misspoke some words or whatever, and I thought I had the clip on my Facebook page. Apparently I don't. So I wasn't able to dig up that clip real quick, but I know he misspoke something. But, Biden was the one with the mental health issues, but Trump can't say a word to save his life. I mean, when he was talking about the origins of COVID-19, it was the oranges of COVID-19. Dumbass. Hey, Roxanne, good to see you. Dean is in the chat as well. I don't think I missed anybody else, but thank you for joining us as well. But yeah, he spoke at Arlington. Then he gave a speech at West Point. At West Point, he basically said that, from what I've read, in part of the commencement speech, was that nobody was joining the military under President Biden. Every single person graduating from West Point today started West Point under President Biden. But conservatives hate the truth. Conservatives don't want to deal with the truth. They just will listen to anything that Donald Trump has to say. Even if you probably have MAGA folks sitting there in that audience going, he's right, he's right, he's right. Not even realizing the fact that when they, joined, West Point to be able to, learn how to be a good officer, I suppose, they did it under Biden. Impeccable living. I'm going to have one more drink before I start my next one. That always does a good say. Hey, Jeremy, good to see you too. I just love that clip. Anyway, apparently we're going through my mother-in-law's house today. That's one of the things that everybody, most people have cookouts and grill stuff, or down here in Louisiana you might have a crawfish boil, all that's good stuff. You do all that stuff. No, what do we do today? Well, I had to bring my wife to physical and occupational therapy early in the morning, so I didn't even get to sleep late on Memorial Day, but that's fine. I'll take care of my wife. There's time for sleep later, right? And then we came home, handled a couple things, and then went to my mother-in-law's house to work on clearing out stuff. And we cleaned out some stuff, and it was fine. We did all right. There's still a lot more to do, but I think we'll get it done. We do actually have potentially thank you, Aaron, for resubscribing. 17 months. Awesome. It's not the same audio as on nerdydan.com, though. That one's a little better. But we do have a contract supposedly on the house, and it's supposed to close sometime in the next month, within a month, maybe even sooner than what the final date is, depending on how everything else goes. Basically the thing will be tomorrow. They sent us the contract, and then they're having somebody come look at the house tomorrow, take some pictures, see what's going on with it. I mean, I've already told the guy, and I already sent him pictures as to what's going on with it, so he knows. It's not like I'm trying to hide any of the issues that are with it. I mean, if the house was fully refurbished and set up, we'd probably be able to get like $185, $190 for it, but it's not, so it needs work. And he wants to make a profit, which is understandable. So tomorrow afternoon, I'll be going over to the house and seeing whether or not, helping the people take pictures of what's going on over there, and then maybe, hopefully, those we'll get back to them. We'll continue on with the sale, and we'll be done with the house. And then we'll just have to have a yard sale or garage sale or whatever to sell all the stuff that we're not going to want to keep, and then also get out all the stuff that we do want to keep. So it's still going. It's still going on, but hopefully, there's been like $1,000 a month bleeding out of my bank account trying to keep this house up and owned or whatever, and it's been rough. So anyway, Victor, good to see you, Victor. Thank you for coming. What else do I have? Is anybody else who jumped in and said hello? Hello there, General Kenobi. Aaron said hello there too over there. I missed that part. Dean, I'll go get a beer after the show. Texas sells beer until midnight. Pfft, amateurs. New Orleans sells beers all day long, 24 hours. Come get drunk over in New Orleans. Anyway, what we got? Did I have a clip for this? I did not. I did not have a background for this. So let's talk about what Denmark is doing. Denmark has hired several K Street lobbyists to do, I guess, certain things for them, to lobby on their behalf. And one of the issues they want people to lobby for them on is the issue of Greenland and how Donald Trump wants to take it. And the person who the Danish government decided to get was former Louisiana Senator David Vitter. If you are a Liberal Dan Radio patron, you will see that I've posted a couple of Hypocrites of the Week that I did way back then in 2009, and David Vitter was a frequent Hypocrite of the Week on my old show. So there's many reasons why. The article from the EU Observer says, David Vitter, a former Republican congressman and senator for Louisiana, who stood down in 2017 after being defeated in a gubernatorial election in Louisiana, he will handle the contract for Mercury, which is the firm that Denmark paid for to do lobbying on their behalf. But they did not get the story correct. They did not get at least the entirety of the story correct. Why did former Louisiana Senator David Vitter lose the gubernatorial election in a red state to a Democrat? Why did he lose to a Democrat? Well, the Democrat is a conservative Democrat, but still, that's not enough to typically get you over the hump. But, he was shamed during that election and afterwards for being the hypocrite that he is over the so-called serious sins that he committed while married to his wife while serving in Congress for Louisiana. The serious sins, he cheated on his wife by paying for prostitutes. Now, Liberal Dan Radio here, we believe that sex work is work, and I have no problem with people who want to do that. I mean, somebody who is in a trophy wife type of marriage, Donald Trump, there's no moral difference to me if you're going to marry the person and just throw lots of money at them, or if you just want to do it casually. There's no moral difference there. But this article, and maybe some other articles, seem to get it wrong because it was just, he just stepped down. They make it sound like he was so gracious in stepping down. But he would have liked to have continued to serve, but the stories finally came out, and there was enough information out there about Louisiana Senator David Vitter and his serious sins that that convinced enough people in Louisiana, to vote for John Bel Edwards instead of David Vitter. And I think the time I found out just happened to be sitting in a bathroom at a Cracker Barrel, I think. Maybe that's TMI, I don't know. But the filing states that the contract, which came into force on the 25th of April, will involve providing strategic consulting, public affairs, marketing, and communications. So I don't know what all that has to do with prostitutes, but that's David Vitter's area of expertise. Maybe there's somebody in the Danish government who also likes hookers, and as such, they feel like they could bond on a common ground, common issue. But I can't imagine that David Vitter would be the one that you want advocating for you if you're going against Trump, because I'm sure David Vitter supports Trump 159% of the time. So I don't know why they would hire Vitter, unless Vitter he's a Republican, so of course he doesn't have principles, but maybe he really doesn't have any principles, and he's more than willing to go against the line just because he can get a buck. Anyway, so that's the story of how Louisiana serious sinner David Vitter, used to call him a whoremonger, how Louisiana Senator David Vitter ended up getting back in the news after being gone for so long. I didn't do the like or describe or whatever. I did record that one, but I didn't do the whole spiel that I do afterwards. I don't have to do it at everyone, right? Hey, Suzanne, good to see you. Man, I sweated so much today working at that house. I think I've drinking like at least 3 or 4 of these cups. Hey, Orville, good to see you over on Twitch. Thank you for joining as well. What else do we want to talk about? So we got that covered. Let's talk about, do I have one for this? I don't even know if I have one for this. Yes, I do. Donald Trump is complaining about old Vladimir Putin. Why is he complaining about old Vladimir Putin? Well, let's take a look-see and see what he has to say.
Provide us an update on Russia and Ukraine as well.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time. always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people,
And the rockets red glare. Anyway, continue.
I don't like it at all. Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I thought he was supposed to be my friend, and now he's my frenemy. I don't like how he's taking, missiles and shooting and destroying infrastructure that I want to go after when Ukraine surrenders to you and you get a big, beautiful surrender. I'm going to make sure that I get property, and I'm going to build a Trump resort over in Ukraine, and I need it to be able to be, well built and not bombed out. That's what we want. That's why we want to have. That's why I'm upset with Vladimir Putin. I couldn't care less about the human lives that are lost because I don't care. I didn't care about that during COVID. Why would I care about that any other time?
Okay. We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
Mr. President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. He's surprised.
What are we going to do? What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally.
I'm not going to tell you my plans. My plans are secret. Nobody knows them until they come sputtering out my mouth at some other event.
Fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
Something happened to this guy recently, apparently. Well, we're going to get to that in a second.
Can I follow up on that? A Russian commander reportedly said that Putin was almost caught in the middle of a drone attack from Ukraine. So do you have any...
I haven't heard that, but maybe that would be a reason. I don't know, but I have not heard that.
I found a reason for me to believe in old Vladimir. I don't know. Hoobastank. Or if Donald Trump is involved, probably like Hoobaskank or something, because, he is a skanky individual. Anyway, that's not what we want to do. That's something else that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Anyway, so Donald Trump is saying, I've known him for a while. I'm very surprised that he would do this. He's killing people. Wasn't he killing people from the start of all of his incursions into Ukraine? Because there's been more than one. But wasn't he, killing people why is it now that you're mad that he's killing people? Because it's during your presidency? You couldn't care less about the people who Putin was killing when Biden was president. You just care about the people that he's killing when you're president. Why? Well, because probably part of the reason is if he's capable of embarrassment, he should be embarrassed because of the fact that he said he was going to solve this issue on day one. Day one of his presidency. It is no longer day one of his presidency. We are now 4 months and 6 days in to his presidency. It feels like it's been much longer. That being said, maybe we should have elected somebody who knew who Vladimir Putin was from the get-go. Because while I don't actually believe that Donald Trump is going to take a firm stance against old Vlad Putin, because I'm sure Vlad still has those P-tapes that Trump doesn't want released. But, maybe we should have hired the person or elected the person or whatever to be the president of the United States and deal with issues such as this. Maybe we should have, elected the person who would actually be able to understand these people from the start and know that Vladimir Putin is a piece of crap and know that Vladimir Putin is a murderer and not be surprised when he murders more people in his illegal war. So, what do you think? Do you think Donald Trump is legitimately shocked and surprised that this is happening because he cares about the people of Ukraine? Do you think that Trump is reasonable and just getting on the anti-Putin bandwagon now, supposedly? Maybe. Who knows? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. And of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. Anyway. So there's that. Hey, Suzanne. Good to see you. I always try. Hopefully, I know everybody in chat's great too, and I'm hoping that I can help to give you the support and encouragement you need. Hey, it's Krista. Good to see you, Krista. That flew by me. Thank you for joining the show again, as always. I think we got everybody, but if I miss you, I apologize. I'm sorry. Or if I miss you, oh wait, if I miss you,
It is what it is.
thank you, Donald. Turned off the volume when I shut my things down and forgot to turn it back on because, sometimes that happens. See, Jeff, it's gin that makes me walk or crawl funny. I'm not a big gin drinker. I'm usually rum, sometimes vodka, obviously cider, because you can always buy me a cider if you want to support the show. Ways to support the show. I didn't even talk about that at the beginning of the show. You can become a Liberal Dan Radio patron, patreon.com/LiberalDan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there. By doing so, you could actually listen to older episodes when I was on the radio under the show Dan and Dave on the Air, Talk from the Left. That's right. There's also some clips and bits that I added up there that I can't just show here because they use copyrighted material and it wouldn't be monetized. So if you want to see some of that old stuff, you'll be able to go to the Patreon and see that stuff. And I'll be adding more stuff as we go because there's a bunch of shows that I could throw up there from the 6 months that we did the show. Now, trying to make sure that Cassie doesn't need my help. Let's see what else. Hey, Teresa, good to see you. Otherwise, sports show, Venmo, Liberal Dan on Venmo. Buy me a cider. Either go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio. Either way will get you there as well. And you could help the show, and you'll get a little notification that you did. Go ahead and buy me one. You could also buy super chats, super stickers here on YouTube, over on Twitch. You can buy bits. You can also gift subscriptions, buy your own subscription, use Amazon Prime to get a free subscription every month. You just have to re-up it every month if you happen to be a member of Amazon Prime and haven't already pulled the trigger on using it for Hal. Which I don't want to take Hal's money away from me. Just add new. Don't want to take away. It's not pie. But anyway, well, maybe the Amazon Prime memberships are pie, but memberships and subscriptions are not. And of course, you can also gift memberships and buy memberships and to become a Liberal Danimal here on YouTube. You can also do super chat, super stickers, etc. Hey, Tim, good to see you. But yeah, so what was next on my agenda, on my list? Making a list, checking it twice. Gonna find out who's naughty or nice. So this is fair warning. The next few minutes of the show is going to be talking about a little bit brutal stuff. So it's factually reporting things from the news. However, if you have issues with dealing with hate against LGBTQA folks, you might want to mute it for a smidge, and I'll give you the thumbs up when I'm back if that's the case. So what we got? We have the case of I had this up here, but there we go. So according to CBS News, Illinois prosecutors weigh hate crime charges after a lesbian was attacked at McDonald's. The Kane County State's Attorney's Office is considering hate crime charges, not filing them, but considering them after a woman from Carpentersville, Illinois, says a group of strangers attacked her at a McDonald's because she's a lesbian. I want to assure the public that my office is conducting a thorough and unbiased review of the case to determine if adding additional charges such as hate crime is appropriate. So adding charges means they've already charged, right? Hate crime is appropriate. We'll explain why a hate crime is appropriate in a little bit. Kane County State's Attorney Jane Moser said in a statement on Wednesday, "I am committed to pursuing justice based on the full facts of the case. Katie Grass suffered a broken nose, a hemorrhage on her eye, and PTSD after the attack at the McDonald's in Carpentersville last week. I generally think that their plan was to kill me, and they didn't care if they ended my life that day." Police arrested 19-year-old John Kamrad, a 17-year-old boy, and both faced several charges, including aggravated battery. Grass said she went to McDonald's in Carpentersville with a 13-year-old cousin after his choir concert. A group of strangers started harassing her using anti-gay slurs as she left the restroom. When she walked away, they said she said they followed. She told strangers that she is a lesbian and flicked arrested them. How it started was because I'm a lesbian, just because I walked into a women's bathroom and I looked the way I look because she has short hair, and, maybe they assumed that she was not really not really a woman, of course, because they can always tell, right? They always say that they can always tell, and they can never tell. Police says they arrested John Comrade and the 17-year-old boy, aggravating battery causing great bodily harm. They initially declined to issue hate crime charges, but on Wednesday said they are working with police to determine if hate crime charges are appropriate. The allegations involved are deeply disturbing. My thoughts are with Katie Grass and her family. I want to know that we do everything within law to hold those responsible. Kane County is a welcoming community, and there's no place in a civilized society for behavior in this case. Well, great, wonderful. There's no room for such things, right? But then why are you hesitating on bringing hate crime charges? And look, to all those conservatives that might be listening to this and be like, well, there's no such thing as a hate crime or whatever. Look, I used to be, a little more to the right, I guess, on this issue, not because I didn't want them to punish people who, attacked, gay people, black people, etc. If you attacked an oppressed and marginalized group, of course you should be punished for it. But I was like, well, if we want to be tougher on hate crimes, why not be tougher on all crimes? And that's an argument that I made for a while. I've since changed and have stopped making that argument. Why? Because of the fact that I did a little research and found out, the origins of the hate crime legislation comes from the 14th Amendment. The states have the authority to, or the states have the requirement to not treat people unequally under the law, and also, and there are other issues involved in, the 14th Amendment that allows the Congress to pass hate crime legislation. Of course, states can also pass hate crime legislation as well, because here's the issue when somebody commits a crime of hate like this, is that if I hate somebody and I attack them and punch them or whatever, if I hate that person do it, that only has the effect on that one person. If I'm only attacking that person because I don't like them as a person, then hate crime doesn't come into play. But when you do a hate crime, when you attack somebody because they're a member of a particular group, in this case because she was LGBTQA, being a lesbian, there are other times if you attack somebody specifically for being black, specifically for having, for whatever reason you're attacking them, if it's not something they have control over, guess what? That you're attacking them because they're in a particular group. And if you're attacking them because they're in the particular group, it means that you might be more likely to attack others in the group as well, which is why you need to add the hate crime charges. So I don't understand why these individuals don't believe that they should be bringing a hate crime charge on top of the other ones, because if they were screaming slurs at her for being a lesbian or whatever, it didn't say what slurs were used, but I probably wouldn't have used them anyway. But if you're shouting those slurs while beating up somebody who happens to be a lesbian, guess what? You're attacking them for being a lesbian, which means every other lesbian who hears about this or who witnesses it or sees it is going to also be harmed, because you've now just made society that much less safer for LGBTQA folks in that particular circumstance. Same thing happens to black people. Now look, there was a case in Louisiana where there was like one or two white guys who were in prison, not at OPP where the release or where the escape happened, but in Angola prison. And these one, I think it might have been just one white guy, was attacked by like 9 or 10 prison inmates, his fellow inmates, and they attacked him specifically because he was white. And they were yelling, things that one might yell if one hates white people, at the white person, at the white prisoner. Those other individuals, those other black individuals, got charged with hate crimes on top of the other crimes that they committed, because not only if they were attacking him because he's white, then every person who's locked up there who's white now has to feel that they're in danger, and it could spread beyond there as well. This is why you need hate crime legislation. Anyway, do you agree with me that hate crime legislation is needed? Do you disagree? Do you just hate the fact that this country is getting this sick and twisted and disgusting that these people feel emboldened to do these types of attacks? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, of course, unless you're a Nazi or an anti-LGBTQA bigot. Have a good day. Let's see. I see a shitstorm coming, and we need to upgrade our home defense anyway. I think we're already in a shitstorm. But maybe maybe the eye wall of the shitstorm is getting closer and closer. But I think we're already in the shitstorm in and of itself. Krista is on Blue Sky. I'm also on Blue Sky too. Liberal Dan Radio on Blue Sky. I'm also Liberal Dan Radio, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and Blue Sky. All Liberal Dan Radio in all those places. Good to be consistent, right? So, do I have one for this? I don't know. Let's see. No, we don't have that one. So we'll go back to the main show image. Oh, main show image. Let's go back to the main show image. There we go. All right. Let's see. I was referring to the new puppy I got. Oh, cool. Oh, you got the puppy on Blue Sky? That's neat. Let's see. Living in Britain, we have two kinds of lesbians. They're lesbians. That figures. They're lesbians. Party woohoo. I don't understand what that means. Like, because are they hotter? I don't know. Hey, it's Hal. Hal is rating the channel with a party of 91. Thank you for joining us, fellow sparklers. Can't Stop Lying, Black Dragon, KJ Dog Love, Moon Girl, Carry On. Thank you all for joining and coming along with the Hal Sparks raid. Of course, Liberal Dan Radio wouldn't be where we're at right now if it wasn't for Hal, so we love Hal very much and can't wait to get him back on the show as soon as possible. But yeah, thank you all again for stopping by. Remember, if you haven't followed me over on Twitch, make sure to follow me on Twitch. I'm also trying to get my subscriber numbers up on YouTube. So if you want to help encourage that as well, it's Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube, or just go to liberaldanradio.com, which brings you to the YouTube channel, and then we'll be able to, grow. And I want to get to 2,000 and 3,000 subs. I don't know why it's lagging behind. Maybe I'm shadow banned on YouTube. I don't know. All the ins and outs of that. But I'm glad y'all showed up. Because you showed up just at the right time, because here on Liberal Dan Radio, we do some bits sometimes. Sometimes I'll do Hypocrite of the Week. Sometimes I will do a clip called Words of Redneck Wisdom. And in this particular case, an individual named Mark from Indiana called into a local radio show. Mark from from Indiana, has been featured on several of my Words of Redneck Wisdom. And without further ado, here's this week's Words of Redneck Wisdom.
And now, Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio.
I'm going to have to correct you a little bit on the media sleeping through the scandal of the Biden administration. They were complicit in the fraud. As a matter of fact, they orchestrated the fraud, from the stolen election big lie to January 6th to COVID to Hunter's laptop, Russian disinformation. They were the main perpetrators, Jeff. Listen, they control what we see. They control what we hear. They control what we discuss. They control what we fear. The information we're given shapes the reality we live in. A word to the wise: open your eyes and see through their lies. Thank you, Jeff.
And this concludes Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
Anyway, so when Mark calls in to Jeff's radio show, I always am waiting with bated breath to hear what he's going to say, because, it's always going to be quite the doozy, Jeff. But yeah, so there's this week's Words of Redneck Wisdom, and he just hit the gamut. He just hit every single one, like, boom, COVID, lie, election, lie, J6, lie. Like, he's just lying about all those things by claiming that the media is lying about this thing. Now, look, again, here at Liberal Dan Radio, we've been very critical of the media for failing to do their job to inform the public about why Donald Trump was the worst choice possible that we could have ever picked to be president of these United States. So, look, I'm critical of the media, but not for the reason that they're critical of the media. They believe that the media is what's responsible for Trump losing. They believe that the media is horrible and terrible because they're on the left, Jeff. But also, it was funny because if you listen to like right at the end, let me see if I can rewind back to that part.
Given shapes the reality we live in. A word to the wise, open your eyes and see through the...
So when I heard that part, I was like, open your eyes, look up to the skies and see I'm just a poor boy. Anyway, so I need no sympathy. Anyway, but yeah, I started singing while he was doing his little bit while I was listening in the car. Easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Anyway, so sorry. I could just go on in random spurts about that. But yeah, like these people are so misinformed that they don't even know when the truth is being told to them. And I'm trying to work on my please don't do Freddie like that. I said I'm sorry. Jeez. I do other ones better. If you go to my nerdydan.com channel, youtube.com/nerdydan.com, you can hear my impression of Louis Armstrong, and that's much better than my attempt to do Queen. So, someone was actually clapping though and wants an encore. So I guess tastes are subjective, but yeah, just the whole gamut of everything that he's saying right there. Oh, the media is responsible. They're telling us what to believe, what to fear, what not to fear. Well, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, right? Right? So, but if you're new to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Sometimes we will bring in words of redneck wisdom and mock and ridicule the people who call into these shows. There's actually one of them that actually sounds almost exactly like Ficus. So, and people are like, was that Ficus? Is Hal calling in? No, that's not Ficus. That's actually somebody else who's called Cowboy who calls into that show. And I'll often listen to that conservative talk show and some others as well because I want to understand. I want to have a grasp of what is going on the other side of the aisle. That not just what Trump is spoon feeding them and what Trump is telling them to believe, but I also want to hear how they are reacting to it, how they are proving themselves to be more and more hypocritical every single day whenever they, claim to be conservatives, claim to be moral, claim to do all these things, but then support somebody who's probably the most immoral president of all time. Simple as that. So, but yeah, that's words of redneck wisdom, and we'll maybe try and do a little more often because I'm sure I'll have plenty of material from that show. But I was going to just play the clip, but then I was like, nope, let's make it words of redneck wisdom. It has to be words of redneck wisdom. Thank you, Aaron, for the bits. Appreciate you. For that singing, you deserve no sympathy. Ouch, my heart. I'm dying inside. Anyway, let's I don't think I have that on there. Oh well. Sometimes I change the backgrounds, but on my program, a lot of times I will point out, expose, etc., how conservatives, while they claim to love the Constitution, they hate the Constitution with a passion. They use the Constitution as toilet paper to wipe their collective bums. And in this case, it's no different because of the fact that people, again, two different ways, because these people are going to support, the deportation of people without due process. They argue that only citizens get due process when the Constitution specifically says otherwise. But they also don't even understand what powers a state has when it comes to, enforcement of laws. Because the 10th Amendment clearly states that if a power is given to the federal government, it's not a power that the states get. So if you give it to the feds, if it's given to the feds, the states don't get it. But they don't understand that. I used to say the Ninth Amendment was the redheaded stepchild of the Bill of Rights, but the 10th one is making a case for them also not liking that one, because they'll argue the so-called states' rights term, even though there's no such thing as states' rights. People have rights, states have powers. They will argue states' rights, and where they're coming with states' rights is the 10th Amendment powers that states get. Now, of course, it's been misused and abused to justify owning people and other terrible, awful, horrible things. But one of the other things I've talked about on this show, when it comes to Trump and his administration and how horrible they are, is the fact that Donald Trump, before Joe Rogan said it, I was saying that Donald Trump is failing to measure twice before cutting. Now, a lot of this was done when he was actually cutting things from, not from the budget, but cutting expenditures, trying to stop spending on things that he didn't want to be spent on. But in this case, man, 31-year-old Danish national with no criminal record, who's been living in the U.S. legally for more than 10 years, was detained by ICE during a routine appointment to finalize his citizenship. So this guy is going through the steps to not just come here through the proper channels that they want you to go through, but they also are, he was also wanted to become a citizen. Casper Erickson, a green card holder who works as a welder in Sturgis, Mississippi, where he lives with his wife and 4 kids, was unexpectedly taken into custody on April 15th and later transferred to the LaSalle Detention Center in Louisiana. 31-year-old, according to his wife, Savannah Hobart Erickson, first moved to the States as an exchange student in 2009 and returned to Denmark. He returned to the U.S. legally in 2013 after he and his wife married and began the legal process of becoming an American citizen. In September 2024, according to the outlet, the Ericksons received word that his application was under review, and on March 7th, that an interview for his naturalization application was scheduled. ICE officials reportedly detained the 31 for failing to file a single document due in 2015 from around the same time the couple lost their first child in stillbirth. Amidst their grief, they forgot to file Form I-751, according to the Mississippi Free Press. More than a month later, the Danish national remains in a Louisiana detention center with dozens of other detainees unsure about his future. This is not moral. This is not ethical. This is BS. Now, the I-71, again, is a petition to remove conditions on residents. And it's basically just a form. You could look at it real quick. Just go over here and petition to remove conditions on residents, receipt, action block remarks, relocation set, relocation received, information about you, the conditional resident, other names used, country of birth, all this other stuff. So apparently, while dealing with the loss of a child, because, Republicans claim to want to support and protect the children, but they don't give a crap about the children. They only care about embryos and fetuses. So he apparently failed to file that one document and did everything else right, and they're like, nope, let's detain him. We're going to put him in a detention facility, and will they deport him too? Who knows? But here's another thing. According to NBC News, U.S. citizen with real ID. Remember, we're all supposed to get real IDs? We're all supposed to get those in order to help us travel and stuff like that, because it proved that we are who we are. It's supposed to be a great thing that we could have. Well, this U.S. citizen had a real ID. He was handcuffed and held in an immigration raid before being released. U.S.-born citizen who was wrestled into the dirt, handcuffed and detained in a vehicle as part of an immigration raid, had his real ID on him. It was dismissed by the ICE officers as fake, the man's cousin said Friday. The video of the arrest showed authorities grabbing him while at the job site in Foley, Alabama on Wednesday, and bending his arms behind him. Someone off camera can be heard yelling, "He's a citizen." Garcia told Noticias Telemundo that authorities took his ID from his wallet and told him it was fake before handcuffing. Real ID is the identification U.S. citizens are required by law to have in order to travel through airports and enter federal buildings. It's considered a higher security form of identification, but they don't care as long as you are Hispanic looking. Garcia told Noticias Telemundo that they grabbed me real bad and the handcuffs were placed very hard on him. Garcia said he was released from the vehicle where he was held after he gave arresting officials his social security number, which showed he is a U.S. citizen. The arrest left Garcia, who was born in Florida, shaken, particularly because the officers also arrested and detained his brother, who is not in the country legally. She added that Garcia lived with his brother. Their parents are from Mexico. He was actually pretty sore when he got back. Yada, yada, yada. So, again, this is a citizen detained by ICE, and when he showed his, like, they wanted us to support the papers, please laws. They wanted us to be able to say, okay, well, if you are not here legally, if you're here legally, you should be able to show an identification. Even citizens, they wanted you to be able to show your papers. Well, this guy did. This guy showed his legal documentation, his real ID. That is a secure form of identification that he obtained, like you're supposed to. And yet they detained him. It's not the only person that our immigration officials have been dealing with incorrectly. There was the child citizen who, was dealing with brain cancer and getting procedures to help treat the brain cancer, and they deported the U.S. citizen because the parents were not. Because, again, they're nothing but bigots. Of course, South Africans, these South Afrikaners, who are afraid that they're going to die, supposedly, in South Africa because they're white, they're allowed to come in no problem. Because, we can all understand why that's the case. That being said, going back to the constitutional argument, now we've dealt with the due process argument. Now, will they provide the individuals here legally the ability to have a habeas corpus hearing? I mean, he's been there a month. The Supreme Court said that if you're being detained and potentially being deported, that you are supposed to be given enough time, a reasonable amount of time, to file a writ of habeas corpus. Of course, we also believe that before they announced that, like Richard Miller or whatever, Pee Wee German, as some might call him, when they started suggesting that Trump should use the clause in the Constitution that would allow him to suspend the writ of habeas corpus in times of invasion, because they all lie and say that this is an invasion. It's a lie. It's not an invasion. It doesn't qualify as an invasion. But they're going to try and twist and turn in every word possible to get the bigoted things that they want done. But again, back to the Constitution on the other issue, not just the side of getting due process. But according to a local news agency, Fox 8, 5 state agencies are entering into ICE partnerships under Operation GO. And in Louisiana, we spell GO, Geaux, because that's the way we spell it. Anyway, a week after Jeff Landry signed Executive Order Operation GO, which calls on Louisiana law enforcement agencies to partner with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, 5 state agencies have entered into those agreements. According to ICE, the Alcohol and Tobacco Control, Wildlife and Fisheries, National Guard, State Fire Marshal, and the State Police have all joined ICE's 287G program under the task force model. The program allows participating agencies to exercise limited immigration enforcement authority under ICE supervision during routine police work. Jeff Landry, the governor, who's like a mini Trump, he goes, "This is a big, great, beautiful executive order." Just trying to be a little mini Trump. He's not orange enough, but he still wants to be a little mini Trump, because I guess he knows that all of his conservative folks will be more than happy to hear such a thing. In a statement, Landry said the operation will focus only on the 91,000 undocumented immigrants in Louisiana with a criminal record. I don't believe you one iota, because they're not focusing on people just with criminal records. They're focusing on everybody who they can deport as much as possible. He says we should hold them responsible. We should remove them from the country if we can do that, or that's what Louisiana Attorney General Liz Muriel said. Neither Landry or Muriel clarified whether being in the state illegally is enough to trigger enforcement under Operation GO, or if an individual must have additional criminal offenses. On May 12th, a cell phone video captured law enforcement agents arriving at an apartment complex in Kenner. Other images show officers knocking on doors. Neighbor told Fox 8 the agents detained an immigrant family and their children who lived at the property. So, but we've talked about this particular thing before, about the fact how they're targeting people. And this is why I don't believe his numbers on the border, because Donald Trump is having all of his ICE people going around and actually going after people who are here already, so he can't be at the border. They can't do two things at once. But one of the things that they don't understand the Constitution is that, again, the power to control the border, the power to control immigration, naturalization, belongs to the federal government according to the Constitution. And because it belongs to the federal government under the 10th Amendment, it does not belong to the states. The states do not have any authority to implement implement any border policy or to enforce federal border laws. Only federal law enforcement can enforce federal border laws, or that's the way it should be at least, but these conservatives are hypocrites because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite, and they are more than willing to ignore the fact that they lack the power to do so. And I've been talking about this for a while too, because you have DeSantis down in Florida, and also Abbott in Texas, who sent people, gave them a bait and switch, said, we're going to send you up here for jobs or something, and then they just send them like the Martha's Vineyard to just troll the libs or whatever. You want to own the libs by usurping authority that you do not have as a governor. Governors DeSantis and Abbott should have both been charged with human trafficking and also usurping an authority that they do not have under the Constitution. That's another reason why Abbott should not have been allowed to put out those floating barbed wire berms in the middle of the frickin' Rio Grande, because he doesn't have that authority to act on that. He doesn't have the authority to control the border. And him acting to control the border is him acting unconstitutionally, extra-constitutionally, if you will. But yet these people are going to make the argument that, we need to deal with these sanctuary cities. There's no such thing as a sanctuary city. I mean, see, people might call themselves sanctuary cities for the colloquial reason, but again, state and local officials don't have the authority to actually act on enforcement. So if you can't act on enforcement, you shouldn't be acting on enforcement, right? So what do you think? Agree, disagree with me? Do you believe that these states including Louisiana, are acting reasonably and responsibly by helping out ICE to, detain people who clearly they don't know who to detain and who not to detain because they've got people here legally, they've gotten citizens, etc.? Do you think that's within their purview or authority, or do you understand the Constitution and understand the fact that these states should not have any authority when it comes to this because the Constitution denies it to them, as clearly and as is explicitly stated in the 10th Amendment? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, of course, unless you're a Nazi or an ICE supporter. Have a good day. Of course, if you're new watching Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from Left, That's Right, you'll know that that's not the end of the show, or you wouldn't know that that's not the end of the show if you have been watching it, but you know that that's just what I do as I'm recording things live to make it so that I don't have to go and re-edit the entire show just to find the things I want to upload when I know I want to upload something. So just, if that was confusing, now you know, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! Anyway. Got one more thing I definitely want to talk about. Donald Trump wants to pass the big, beautiful bill. He loves the big, beautiful bill, and there's so many big, beautiful things in it. It's a big, bogus bill. There's a whole bunch of crap in it. Unfortunately, one of the things that is crap in it is this little section, as described by USA Today. Trump's Republican allies in Congress are trying to help him hobble the judges who are, who are basically telling him that he could be held in contempt of court. His officials could be held in contempt of court because they're refusing to follow judicial orders. So the One Big Beautiful Bill Act says it passed the House on May 22nd. The short provision that basically hampers judges from being able to enforce that law. Section 70302, restriction of funds. No court of the United States may use appropriated funds to enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction order was issued pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 65C. So, do we believe that Donald Trump and his administration understands what 65C says? No, we don't. Why? because here's what it says. Rule 65, injunctions and restraining orders. Preliminary injunction. The court may issue preliminary injunction only on notice to the adverse party. Consolidated hearing, blah, blah, blah. Issue without notice if for a TRO, if something is necessary or whatever. C, security. The court may issue a preliminary injunction or temporary restraining order only if the movement gives a security in an amount that the court considers proper to pay the costs and damages sustained by any party found to have been found wrongfully enjoined or restrained. Very important words there. I'll repeat it again. The court may issue a preliminary injunction or a temporary restraining order only if the movement gives security in an amount that the court considers proper to pay the costs and damages sustained by any party found to have been wrongfully enjoined or restrained. So the judge has to basically determine what that cost might be so you have the security that's given. But what if there's no cost? What if there's no additional cost? What if it's actually cheaper? What if by deporting these people, you are causing more funds to be expended when in reality, if you would have done the right thing and measured twice before cutting, you would have realized that some of these people should have been, and you would have saved money. So these temporary restraining orders, these injunctions that are being passed by being ruled on by these courts in these particular issues have the end goal of saving the taxpayers' money, because you're not spending money on people who shouldn't be deported. You're not spending money rounding all those people up. You're not spending money on anything else that this presidency is trying to do. So if it's saving money, then the amount that the court would consider proper to pay the costs and damages sustained by being wrongfully enjoined or restrained would be zero, or negative even, but you can't do a negative, so it would be zero. So according to, again, this, no court of the United States may use appropriated funds to enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given. So this law is saying that pursuant to 65C that you have to give security every time there's failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order. But that's simply not true, because the law, the specific law in 65C says that you have to do a security only if there would be financial loss for being wrongfully restrained or wrongfully having an injunction placed against you. But the Trump administration is full of idiots who don't understand the law or don't care to know the law or just know it and don't give a crap about it. One of those three. Or it could be multiple versions. I don't know. But yeah, anyway. They don't understand the law. And they're trying to force the court, to take the court's power away from them to enforce these restraining orders. Now, of course, there's a whole other issue of how does contempt of court work when it comes to the presidency, because as most of us saw when we were watching the big cabinet meeting that was up live, and Pam Bondi was out there talking her BS about, all the stuff that she was talking about. One of the first things she said was that she would make sure that the U.S. Marshals don't go after anybody found in contempt, because U.S. Marshals are controlled by the Justice Department, run by Pam Bondi. And despite the fact that Pam Bondi says
no one is above the law in this country,
she is going to deny the ability of the court, the power of the courts to send the U.S. Marshals out to put somebody who is in contempt of court, in jail. Because you are not allowed to defy a court order. That's the law.
no one is above the law in this country.
Except for Pat Bondi, Donald Trump, and the rest of this criminal administration at this point. Because basically anybody who's supporting any of the acts that he's done that are illegal are criminal. If he's failing to follow a court order, basically saying that they're breaking the law. Criminals. They're all criminals. Right? I mean, I'm sure conservatives listening and will say a whole bunch of BS that is nonsensical. But again, just to reiterate the point, The actual law only requires a security to be paid if there's a potential of financial loss for being wrongfully enjoined. That doesn't mean that all restraining orders and all injunctions or restraining orders, it doesn't mean that all of them will incur loss on behalf of the other party. And the potential loss could be zero. Again, as I said, it could be negative because you might actually be saving money by being stopped from doing all this BS. Anyway, what do you think? Do you agree with me? That the Trump administration is, not following this law, not understanding this law properly, and just basically trying to use this to get out of having to follow court orders and protecting his own who are following his orders instead of the court orders? Or do you think that Donald Trump is reasonable and fair in doing all that stuff? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, of course, unless you're a Nazi. Have a good day. Let's see. I think someone knows the laws because they thread the needle and then announce that they want their Trumpies to believe, and then they just act indifferent when the committee questions them. Some might know the law, but I don't think Trump knows the law. I don't think Trump cares to know the law. Hell, Trump hired attorneys in his documents case. They should have known the law, and they lied to the grand jury. Let's see. Susie's here. Good to see you, Susie. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Sue. Anybody else? Leanna Geyer. Good to see you as well. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. What else? Who else did I miss? I might have missed some other people. I don't know, but I appreciate y'all for joining. Over on Pam Matthews over on Twitch. For 10 years, they didn't tell him he failed to provide a form. They detained a Georgetown University professor in D.C., shipped him off to Mississippi for 2 months. Not a criminal, not a Hamas supporter, not a gang member. Build back better, greater than Big Booty Bill. Yes. Big, bogus. We should name it the Big, Bad, Butch, Body, Booty Bill. It's called the 6B Bill, right? Whatever it is that future President Jasmine Crockett said to that crazy ass Marjorie Taylor Greene, old MTG. Let's see. Tahila, after we impeach this clown, things will get better. How do we impeach him, though? How do we impeach Donald Trump? It's not going to pass the House. You would have to have the Republicans actually grow a conscience and a spine for it to pass the House, and then you would need more Republicans to grow a conscience and a spine in the Senate to be able to convict on the articles of impeachment. I have no faith that anybody in the Republican Party is going to do the right thing, and everybody who may have done the right thing has already either lost their re-election or chose to not run for re-election because they knew they were going to lose and didn't want to have to deal with the loss of their record. Trump does not know his butt from a hole in a wall. Exactly. Win the House and Senate by large margins in 2026. I don't know if we could get that high. We'd have to. Maybe that's something I can look in the Wednesday show. Maybe that's something I could actually find. Do to find out. Look for max possible seat flips, Senate seat flips in 2026. We'll check that out. We'll see if we can get an answer from that, if I remember to look at that screen again. But anyway, be right back. Krista needs another beer. Can you get me one too while you're out, Jeff? Don't bring me beer from Uranus.
Oh my.
Anyway. So then we also have the Harvard crap. Donald Trump is still blasting Harvard after a judge blocked his revocation that would stop allowing Harvard to bring in international students because he's mad at Harvard for some reason. Because he doesn't like the well-educated. After the Nevada primaries in 2016, Donald Trump only said that he loved the poorly educated. So I'm sure none of those people, none of the poorly educated, have made it into Harvard. This article, President Trump is again targeting Harvard University days after his administration's move to revoke the school's ability to enroll international students was blocked by a judge. In a post on Truth Social, he said home countries of some of Harvard's international students are not at all friendly to the United States and pay nothing towards their students' education. Are you saying that countries should pay for the education of the students of the country? I mean, That's what Bernie Sanders has been talking about. But we know you don't want to do what Bernie Sanders wants to do because you're not an actual populist. You're a faux populist. And it drives me crazy when people say that he is a populist. But here's the thing. Here's the question that I have when it comes to this whole Trump declaring war on Harvard University. Isn't it a bit hypocritical for the person who got fined or who bilked millions out of the people who attended the so-called Trump University? Isn't it hypocritical and quite ironic, don't you think, that he is now telling a university, a real university, how to act? I mean, we already knew he was a felon, from the most recent convictions. But we also know that he was, in civil court, proven to not only be a sexual abuser, but a con artist by doing such scams as Trump University. So for him to tell a university how they should run their business would be laughable if the problems that Donald Trump is creating was just not so serious. But they are. Anyway, so what do you think? Do you support Donald Trump's war with Harvard? Do you think he's a hypocrite? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. And of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. Let's see. Jeff says, got one for me and Krista. I only got 2 hands, Dan. Well, then I guess you would have had to put it up your anus, right? Say, Impeccable Living just ordered pizza. I'm too drunk to do anything in my kitchen. That's probably a safe bet. Don't want to go. If you're too drunk, don't go buy knives, right? We don't want you to go buy knives. Anyway, so now's the time in the show. We're not saying goodbye. We're not singing. Well, actually, that was the funny. Before we move on to the open call segment, I will open the phone. The phone lines will be open as soon as you see the image up next to my face that has the call-in number. But we were talking about, just to talk about a funny thing. We were talking about, I think I've done part of this. I talked about part of this on the show, but not the last part of it. I was doing an imitation of several of the Disney characters while I was at a friend's house this weekend doing some gaming, and I did the "what boy," my Mickey Mouse impression. Hot dog. And then of course there's Goofy, the gorsh. So yeah, Goofy and Mickey or whatever. My best probably Disney imitation is Stitch, which has just come out. Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. That's probably one of my top 2 or 3 imitations that I do. So we were talking about that or whatever, and how the funny joke about why did Mickey divorce Minnie because she was fucking Goofy. We were talking about how I was on a Disney cruise. The one time I was on a Disney cruise, and they started playing Uptown Funk, but because Disney Cruise is a family cruise or whatever, and they had kids around, I guess they didn't want to say hot damn. That comes as part of a hot Uptown Funk. So instead of him saying hot damn, the DJ or whatever goes hot dog, and I'm like, y'all miss an opportunity. Because, like, Mickey Mouse, especially Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, would always say hot dog, hot diggity dog, or whatever. So you should have said, too hot, and then you should have had Mickey go, hot dog. But then I went even further with that one and said that it shouldn't be Uptown Funk. You should have Goofy singing it, and he should be singing, Uptown Yuck, gonna give it to you. Don't believe me, just gorsh. Anyway, so there's that. And then I was talking to my friend Larry about that, and he then brought up the joke of Mickey divorcing Minnie, and I gave him the punchline, and then he was like, there was a time, as there was an album, with Aaron Neville stuff or whatever, or there was an album, I think, of famous singers, like a compilation of famous singers singing Disney themed songs, and all over the place. But the one that the Neville, it was either Aaron Neville himself or the Neville brothers with Aaron Neville did, that he would, I think, typically end the show with the end of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. But of course, it sounds like Aaron Neville. So it's like, now's the time to say goodbye. to friends like you and me. MICKEYMOUSE. Anyway, so not my best imitation, but still, best one is still over on nerdydan.com. My imitation of Louis Armstrong as I do Wonderful World. The best one of the two that I posted up there is the one that I got second place on a cruise ship, but the next cruise I did get first place on the cruise when doing that. So anyway, so that was that. I was for some reason, I guess because whatever, I did the Mickey thing, and I was like, oh, let me talk about the Disney stuff because we're big Disney freaks, even though Disney has gotten way too expensive. Let's see. I need to get my knife sharpened. Jeff Grace, annoying errand I have been avoiding for months. To heal that part of my stomach, I'm frustrated that Hakeem is not strong enough to be acting president when we take the House and Senate. Speaker becomes president. Maybe, but you know, it is. I'm sorry.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Thanks, Dean. MICKEYMOUSE. I actually saw I saw him. I used to work in a hospital doing some low grade computer stuff or whatever, and so I used to work at the hospital doing all that stuff. And I went down to the cafeteria downstairs, and it's in New Orleans, obviously, because I'm from New Orleans. And all of a sudden, I look to my left, and there's Aaron Neville right next to me, just getting food. I'm like, it's weird. But the thing is I mean, I'm not even like a native Louisianan. I moved down here when I was 18. But like most of the time when we see stars in Louisiana, it's just like, oh, there's a star. Like, we don't harass them, we don't bug them. That's why like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt like had a house together. Nicolas Cage, I think, had a house down here. Many I looked over while driving one day, and John Goodman was driving the car next to me. I was like, whoa, kind of neat, but like, you know, didn't like make a big spectacle of it. I was just like, oh, John Goodman, cool. I was walking in the French Quarter one time. I forget what exactly it was that I was doing, but I happened to pass some shop of some sort, and all of a sudden out comes Katy Perry with her entourage, and I'm just like, I was really tempted to at least say, hey, can I take a selfie real quick? But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's fine, because we tend to be more chill when it comes to celebrities coming around and just acting like, you know, they're normal people, because, you know, many times they just should be treated like normal people unless they're dicks, then treat them like dicks, right? So, wait, they have a new 7-Up? What's the new 7-Up? I know they have a new Sprite. There's a new Sprite with iced tea. It is disgusting. It is, unless you happen to like powdered iced tea mix. If you like powdered iced tea mix, you might very well like the Sprite mixed with tea. However, down here in the South, we don't like instant tea. We only like to have tea that's made with ice and with real tea leaves, and then so much sugar that you would get diabetes, right? Anyway, doing the imitation of that Mark guy from the Words of Redneck Wisdom. Anyway, so without further ado, actually, before I do that, let me make sure this volume is off, because for some reason it likes to ring both places and I don't want it to. The ringer. Oh, no, it's not off. There we go. Ringer's off now. Good. So it'll just vibrate at this point. So, let's see, what did Tim say? What the, tropical zero sugar. Fair enough. My grandma used Lipton's Instant. I couldn't say that. I think I used to drink instant iced tea back in the day when I didn't know any better. I used to think it was fine. And then, you know, I moved to Louisiana and I had real diabetes tea and was like, nope, sorry. That instant stuff will not cut it anymore. So they should have known better to not sell that Sprite with tea in Louisiana or anywhere in the South, because most people are going to be like, this is gross and disgusting. I wouldn't be surprised if it quickly goes on clearance at most of the stores after people realize how terrible it is. Oh, Steve from across the pond is taking off. Well,
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. But anyway, Boom. There we go. The call-in number, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. Now, unlike most radio shows, when I open up the phone lines, I don't have like the ability to take in multiple calls or the ability to have a phone screener or whatever. So because of that, if the first person does hop on the line and calls 562-LIBDAN1, just wait to call again until the other person hangs up. And then you can call again, and then I'll take your call. And we'll keep the phone lines open for a few minutes at least, or whatever, give a couple people time to talk. Big Hook is one of my favorite callers. He calls in a bunch, and you're more than welcome to call in any time. But I know sometimes Big Hook does like to give other people the opportunity who do want to call in. It's 562-542-3261 or 562-LIBDAN1. Aaron, thank you for posting that in the chat. When I was playing around with Google Voice and trying to figure out if I could find a number, I wanted to try and find a number that could be somehow clever for the show, and I finally got LibDan on it. I was like, ooh, yay. So, yes, so 562-542-3261 or 562-LibDan1. You could also, if you wanted to, you could also text that number if you wanted to, and I would be able to respond to texts as well. I would be happy to read your texts on the air and respond to them in kind if you had questions. So feel free, Glib Dan. Maybe Literal Dan. I'm Literal Dan sometimes. Sometimes I'm too literal, so sometimes people call me Literal Dan. Big Hook. And you want to scream? Wait, do you want to scream at me or scream with me, or just scream in my ear? Because why not? But hope you're not screaming at me. I hope I haven't said anything to make anybody mad. Let's see. One of the benefits of shooting film and TV up here in Canada is security costs are way lower, and that people generally don't harass the stars. That's probably why you saw a lot of people up in Vancouver, for example. I've known of several shows that I used to like to watch that were filmed in Vancouver. I think Stargate was filmed there, or maybe multiple versions of the Stargate universe were there. But yeah. Dean Baker, one boyfriend, first time here. I noticed him looking at it. I showed him a new shotgun and I just bought. He saw her bedroom all camo. He never came back. Hilarious. Susie, you could open lines. You can talk about anything you want to talk about. If you wanted to say hello, if you want to, bring up something that I didn't bring up today, you're more than happy. I mean, you could talk about the big bogus bill. You could talk about Donald Trump making Memorial Day about himself. You can talk about David Vitter or anything else that's news of the day. Feel free. Give your little rant. Or I was going to do a fat man rant. One of the other bits that I do sometimes is a fat man rant, and that's what I'll usually do. That'll be my background when I'm ranting. But I was going to do a rant because there was some article that reported that that BlackRock was suing United Healthcare. And supposedly, the reason that BlackRock was suing United Healthcare was because United Healthcare, after the whole Brian Thompson fiasco, realized that maybe they should be covering more claims to make people happy. So by doing so, some people believe that United Healthcare didn't do their due diligence or whatever, or what they were supposed to do when it comes to letting their shareholders know and letting other investors know what the impacts or the effects after the Brian Thompson debacle would have been with, Luigi Mangione, who was totally down here in New Orleans the entire time when they claim he was up there. But, it happened. But anyway, I was going to do a whole rant on that. I was going to do a whole rant on the fact that the reason that BlackRock was suing United Healthcare was they were mad about the fact that United Healthcare was paying out more claims, which made the stock worth less than it was previously, because when they restricted claims and let people die, that's more profit in their pockets. But, we got Big Hook. But again, I don't really know if the, I don't know if, hold on a second, Big Hook. I don't know if the story is truly legitimate. There's some conflicting reports on it. So instead of doing a fat man right now, I want to take some additional time to research, because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want to measure twice before I cut. So before I do any, I'll give you a little bit of intro of it. It sounds reasonable that's not reasonable, but it sounds like plausible that this is something that both BlackRock would do, and United Healthcare would have done previously. But, it is what it is, but we're going to hold off on discussing that further because of the fact that I don't know if we have all the facts right. So anyway, hey, Big Hook, thank you for calling. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was stealing somebody else's thunder or whatnot, so was holding off there. Wasn't sure if anyone was going to step up to the plate.
Wait,
so
hold on a second, Big Hook. Hold on a second, because there's something in the chat that I need to respond to. Anti-Semitic. Yes, Aaron just noticed it too. So, this is deserving of a fat man rant immediately. If you wanted an instant fat man rant, you got it. Roxpile over there on YouTube. Roxpile claims the Jewish Talmud. I don't know what other Talmuds there would be. The only Talmud is the one belonging to Jews. Nobody else has a Talmud. Is the Jewish law that, according to this user, supposedly justifies pedophilia. It does not. And I have a feeling I know what you're probably talking about, because there is a tiny, small Jewish community in New York City. And these people, normally what you clean after you perform a circumcision, and you do a certain amount of cleaning. And the way that this particular tiny, small, little Jewish community, who are a bunch of nut jobs, do it, I don't even want to talk about. But it would absolutely just qualify as pedophilia. 100%. They are definitely PDF files, as you would have to say, on TikTok. But no, the Talmud does not justify pedophilia. And that's the end of it. But the thing is that when I first heard that story, when someone first told me about what was going on in New York City with that tiny little Jewish community, I was like, that can't be true. Because I went to 8 years of Hebrew day school. I did additional classes during high school when I didn't even go to a Hebrew day school. I went to an after-school classes at a local university that was called Baltimore Hebrew University that taught us all about this stuff. Not only did it teach us about our own religion, but it told us how to point out anti-Semitism. So when the first person told me about this, I refused to believe him because I'm well educated on many aspects of my religion. Probably more so than a lot of people are when it comes to my religion that I was raised under. Nothing justifies the harming of a child under Jewish law. Not one thing. But when I first heard about this, I was like, I refused to believe it. I thought it was just anti-Semitic riffraff, like kind of Sarah Palin's, bringing up the blood libel or whatever, or there's anti-Jewish comments about how Jews would grind up children into the matzahs, which makes no sense because matzahs are white, and if you grind up little children into matzahs, then it would make it pink because of all the blood, right? So it doesn't make any sense at all. But that was one of the many anti-Semitic things that we learned about that people would try and spread about Jews, even to this day. It still happens. People still bring up that BS. But here's the thing. I did look into it, and because I typically would have trusted the person that told me, I thought he was being bamboozled. I didn't believe he was being anti-Semitic, but I looked it up, and there is that one small Jewish community that absolutely does the disgusting thing, and they use their religion as an excuse. It's so bad up there with that small community. It's so bad up there that the rabbis who perform the circumcisions, i.e. the moils who perform the circumcisions, transferred like STIs to the kids they just performed the disgusting acts on. So that's how bad it is up there. There's no Jewish justification of doing that whatsoever. So I am... Candace Owens says the Jewish Talmud is the Jewish law. Candace Owens? No. Candace Owens is the one that said Hitler would have been okay if he wouldn't have been a globalist, if he would have just focused on making Germany great, i.e. keeping his activities only in Germany, that it would have been fine. Now, people deny that that's true, but you can watch the video and it's true. I would absolutely not listen to Candace Owens on anything. Here's the thing, Roxpile. I am Jewish. I'm an educated Jewish person who is educated on my own religion. I'm also probably more educated on other people's religions too, because I take the time to learn. If you're going to listen to Candace Owens, someone who's not Jewish, over somebody who is Jewish, that maybe explains why Donald Trump said he loves the poorly educated. Because that sort of gullibility, that you would actually believe Candace Owens. Now, if Candace Owens had a degree in Jewish studies, then maybe I would make an exception for the shiksa, the non-Jew individual, the goy, any of the goyim out there, as we would say, who gets a degree in Jewish studies. I would give them the benefit of the doubt that they might actually know what's going on. Candace Owens does not have, to my understanding, any degree pertaining to Judaic studies, to the practice of Judaism, or anything about the Jewish people as a whole. So you are not going to spread that anti-Semitic BS on my channel without getting a clap back. So consider this, Roxpile, your clap back. If you say it again, mods have full authority to just yeet you from the chat. Frickin' anti-Semites. Anyway. Sorry for stepping over you, Big Hook, but, you know, it happens.
No worries.
That's fine. But there you go. What were you going to say?
Well, I mean, where does this go? I mean, next they'll be putting the, the Elders of Zion crap all over again.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, within every religious group, there's always fanatics. That's the problem, you know, because some people will go, oh, well, I believe in being a moderate Christian, or I believe in, and others will be like, oh, no, you have to go to the grave with a cross in your hand and a Bible in the other, you know, that sort of stuff. I mean, they're just batshit crazy, and you know, they believe that a higher power defines everything that happens in their life, and you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, on my own personal Facebook page, I did have a comment that came up in my memories yesterday. That talks about, again, people who will try and tell Jewish people that they, you know, that what is anti-Semitic and what is not anti-Semitic. And reading directly from my post that I had from 2024, from May 25th, so a year and a day ago, you're reminded that while the Palestinian people should be free, Netanyahu is a mamzer, and settlers are just colonists under a different name, using from the river to the sea as anti-Semitic, and Jewish people are the people who get to decide what is anti-Semitic and what isn't. If you're not Jewish and you're still saying it, F you, and I don't want to hear some of my Jewish friends say it's okay. I was once told by a black person that I had a pass to say the N-word as well. Did I say it? No. And I'm not equating the two. I'm just saying that just because one person says it's okay, that doesn't make it okay. The general consensus amongst the Jewish people is that the term from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic. So, but again, people who are not Jewish will often try and tell us what is anti-Semitic and what is not, and I'll tell them F you. But those are the things that allow anti-Semitism to be perpetuated. To why? To bring up the whole Elders of Zion thing, to bring up all the other anti-Semitic tropes that are out there. Crap like that allows anti-Semitism to grow and fester. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, but the problem is that when you downplay the N-word as well as the Elders of Zion and all that other stuff, and you say whatever, you know, it's you know, freedom of speech. That's my opinion. That sort of stuff.
Right.
It makes it even more dangerous because then people accept it and start using it in everyday language, and you know, it does way more harm as opposed to saying, you know, like the biggest failure in America, as far as I'm concerned, is the education system, because you guys have lost the doctrine of truth, and you've allowed people to, fill the internet as well as the public forum with bullshit everywhere, and to spout racist beliefs with little to no accountability. And I mean, it goes in every sector of your government. The Republicans are definitely, playing the race card all the time. Law enforcement is certainly playing the race card all the time. I mean, it's a scary proposition because, depending on your skin color and your accent, determines how you're going to be treated that day, and it's really, really sad. It's a really poor reflection of what America has become. One of the things that we have up here in Canada is the multicultural society, so from, I could walk up to a different white person from different places and get a totally different accent, and we say, oh, well, where are you from? And what were your experiences? And what was that? And we embrace that stuff. We want to learn more. We try our best to incorporate everybody in society, that sort of thing. Whereas you are going in the absolute opposite direction currently right now. I mean, you said it before. The guy was from Denmark, and I have no doubt he was racially profiled based on his accent, and they said, oh, let's throw him in the and do whatever, right? Because they're under my bet is that they get a commission for every person that they throw in their jails, because those are private prisons that require people to be paid for by the government, and so as a result, there has to be an incentive to do it. I mean, and then on top of that, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're an ICE agent, obviously you don't have a conscience, or you're a racist, because as far as I'm concerned, you go and you gather up people who've done absolutely nothing other than existing. That's sick as fuck.
One of the people they were getting one person who potentially was here against our immigration laws, and then they got another person too, and the guy's like, and it was like, well, he wasn't on the list, and they were just like, oh, grab him too, might as well, because
they did that with that guy. They did that with that couple that were in the car, and the guy went and broke all the windows out with an axe, and he wasn't even ICE, and they were like, oh, this name, they said, I'm not that person, and they took him in and his wife anyway. Because, they're judging based on skin tone as well as, an accent or whatever, I mean.
They detained a Hispanic man. We talked about this on the show, too. They just detained a Hispanic man who had some mental disabilities, or he might have had autism, and was having, was asked. He went up to the border patrol officer and just asked him how to get to this particular place because he wanted to get home, and instead he was arrested. And somebody was able to save him and say, hey, show the proof that this guy is a U.S. citizen. He shouldn't have been arrested. And they were able to say, but he never should have been arrested in the first place. So that's why these people suck, because they don't measure twice before they cut. They don't take measured actions. They're just trying to rush everything through, flood the zone, as they say. So, and if they're wearing masks, F them too. Nobody in law enforcement should be wearing masks.
Well, that's just it, because if there's no accountability for them breaking the law, how can you claim to be ICE and say, oh, I'm doing whatever, and it's like, where's your warrant?
Right.
Why don't you have identification, so that way, if you are using and abusing people in such a manner that is against their human rights, how can we report you? Because it's basically kidnap and ransom. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is unacceptable. And the thing is that it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. you know, and where do you draw the line in the sand and say, no more of this shit. It has to end. And, you know, the problem is that where it started from, like with Merrick Garland and not pushing the thing right from the beginning and getting Jack Smith right on the case and making sure that Trump was not even able to run for president, you know, that shit should have been taken care of from day one of the Biden presidency. And the fact that it wasn't is you know, the biggest mistake in U.S. history as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, as Trump says, oh, I told you I was a snake and you let me in. And
Pretty much.
Like, you know, it's like he's confessed to everything. And I mean, this is the biggest grift in U.S. history as far as, you know, what is he's grifted already close to $5 billion, not to mention all the other stuff that he's doing. You know, I mean, you know that he has access to all the top secret documents. What's to say he's not selling this stuff every time he does an overseas trip? You know, let alone the evidence that the Doge guys are sending shit to Russia. You know,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. You know, I hate to be a pessimist, but man, everything in open sight now is there to see, and you know, and you can't trust your law enforcement to actually uphold the law and say, no, you can't do that. That's against the rules.
Right.
They have to look the other way because they're like, oh, well, what will happen if I get fired and I lose my pension? Well, gee, you're only going to lose you're only going to lose America. You're only going to inherit a lawless society that doesn't believe in you anymore. I mean, where do you go from there? You know, I mean, I don't know. And it's only a matter of time now before he decides he's going to probably do the Harry Potter sorting hat thing and figure out who the loyalists are within the military, and then he's going to impose martial law.
Yep, that's why I said back in this first administration that we need to make sure that the military can do what they need to do to protect the Constitution and not the presidency. And who knows how many of the people in the military are upholding their oaths to the Constitution versus upholding their, I guess, loyalty pledge or whatever they might want to. Trump might want them to take to him and him alone, because that's what he feels he deserves, because he wants to call himself freaking king. So,
yeah. Just wanted to say something as well. There's another YouTube creator, and this is not a down. Thumbs on you, Dan, because you're very thorough. But if you look up generic art dad on YouTube, this guy, he suffers a little bit on the autism scale, but his explanation of legal matters, as well as the politics, as well as where corruption starts, how it happens, how they get away with it, everything is really well explained. And like, for example, you were mentioning about the courts. He has a short there, which is about whatever, I think it's the 2 or 3 minute limit on what a short is. And he explains that whole scam of how he is basically taking power away from the courts and imposing monetary restrictions on it, and also making it retroactive, meaning that he doesn't have to follow, restraining orders from the past if they weren't actually bonded, that sort of thing. So, I mean, at this point, I don't know anymore. The Republicans have basically signed the contract and said, okay, it's a lawless society. You can do whatever you want to do, Donald Trump,
Right.
And you have our backing and blessing, and, fuck everybody else. And, I have no idea what they're thinking because,
Yeah, I don't know. I try and determine what they think, and sometimes it's just baffling to me. Like, how does anybody with working brain cells come to the conclusions that they come to?
Well, that's just it. I don't get it either because I'm like, how stupid do you got to be to not see it happening? I mean, the shelves are going to be empty, right? Which means that your stomach is going to be empty, which will go along with the empty brain you had when you voted for Trump. I mean, things are only going to get worse, and then he went and he put that tariff on the European Union. I mean, like, everywhere you look, he is making enemies and destroying the alliance that we had with Western nations for security purposes and national, as to being able to know what's on the horizon, what our enemies are doing and what they're spying on and who they're going after, and all that sort of stuff. And no one's going to intelligence share with us you guys anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they know that if they tell anybody within the Trump sphere of influence, it's going to go directly to Putin and the enemies that and you're going to end up compromising more CIA assets. You're going to be compromising everything. I mean, He's already shut down the cybersecurity divisions. I mean,
yeah.
You guys,
much easier to get hacked, I guess. To answer two things in the chat real quick, Bicycle Mike asked if did he use AutoPen or whatever for all of the J6 pardons. The J6 pardons were actually one executive order. We read it on the show a while back. It listed like this many people, like maybe like 10 or 12 people, maybe a little more, specifically for particular commutations of their sentences or whatever. But everybody else basically was a blanket. If you're charged with crimes pertaining to January 6th, you're pardoned. So he only needed one signature to do that. So that's that particular thing. What was the other thing I wanted to respond to as well? Let me just find it real quick. Somebody asked about if there are. Josh asked if there are people pardoned for J6 that are now working for ICE. It's not an impossibility. I'm sure it's plausible. And one of the things, though, I would say is that my theory was that the people who are going to be pardoned for January 6th, if they haven't already been locked up again for committing other crimes, because some of them have been, is that I would say those people would more likely be his like brown shirts or whatever. Like that ICE might be like the official like Gestapo or whatever, but the brown shirts would be the ones like those people, like the red hats instead of the brown shirts. Like that's probably what those people would turn into if we're going to have an analog between Nazi Germany and today, which unfortunately there's too many things to not. So
yeah, I'm wondering, because the thing is that like once you get rid of him, you are literally going to have to rewrite the Constitution. And you're going to have to, purge all the agencies of these, people who have infiltrated the systems. And, because it's, you guys don't have a domestic terror law. And the fact of the matter is that's what you have running the government right now, are domestic terrorists, right? Because none of this shit would fly in a normal court of law. And, and you got all these people that are doing this stuff. And I don't see what the end game is for these guys, because once we get rid of them, as far as I'm concerned, they should all be tried and put in jail for, because let's face it, they betrayed the country. They've only hurt people. How many people are going to die? Already, as Rachel Maddow said, He's got 3 ports where food and medicine are just sitting there rotting.
Yep.
And they've got a 28-year-old from Doge who is basically making sure that it sits there and rots and doesn't help anybody. So they're going to effectively, Doge is going to go and kill over 1 million people right off the bat. For what gain?
Right.
You know, like, and the thing is that the courts can't step in and save everything. And I mean, I don't know what it's going to take at this point. I mean, unless you guys are going to march on Washington and just, you know, make them exit. Because the other thing I think is happening is that the Republicans are basically not going back to their home districts because they know that it's not safe for them to go back there because so many people are angry with them, which means that you don't have a government. You have
Right.
a bunch of people that are hiding and doing Trump's bidding in the shadows with no accountability whatsoever. So, you know, I don't know. You guys have sort of... Have you lost it, or maybe you never had it in the beginning? I don't know, because at this point, you know, it's just with every successive Republican presidency, the U.S. has gone further and further towards being a third world country.
Yep.
I mean, you know, healthcare is unaffordable. Now you're going to take money away from Medicare, and you're going to end up closing hospitals. You know, I mean, where does it end?
Hopefully
Grandpa
soon.
and Grandma are going to be out on the street soon begging for food and shelters. And, you know, what are you going to do then? Like,
yeah, I mean, you've got Dan Bonifolio out there who's out there like trying to convince people that, or tell people that you know, if you said 86 the president, you know, that means you're doing a death threat, and as such, you know, you're going to be investigated by the thing, and you know, there's just so many things where just his administration is so chock full of either poorly educated people and or people who were just willing to just be Nazis for Trump, and
yeah.
How do you stop that? Again, that's probably one of the reasons why I said back in the day that I was like, remember when the Egyptian military, basically gave the country back to the people when a despot took over or whatever. Maybe we need the patriots of the military to do that. But again, who knows how many of them are patriots versus how many of them are. But I want to believe that that a lot of the people are taking their oath to the Constitution seriously, and who then would not follow illegal orders, but.
The problem is that you guys have normalized this shit because the mainstream media isn't doing their job, and the courts are failing to impose any penalties on these people. You know, throw Stephen Miller's ass in jail and hold him for contempt of court, as well as disobeying orders, and make sure that the people that were sent to El Salvador are brought back. And say. And every one of these people needs to has to have something imposed on them. Because at this point, words are meaningless if they have no consequences or actions behind them, and this is the problem. Because everything, all the shit that comes out of Trump's mouth becomes an action, and and anything that the courts say is. Oh, well, that's your interpretation. That's fucking bullshit.
Right. Well, we've had a history in this country of I mean, I'm calling it like a tradition or whatever, because nobody really ever questioned over the course of these years, significantly at least, that you are you required to follow a court order if you're in the executive branch? Most presidents afterwards would be like, okay, the judges ruled, therefore that's the ruling, and that's it. We're not going to fight it anymore. But this presidency has basically figured out, well, which is I was worried about before he even took office, was how what's going to happen when Donald Trump tries to just not follow judicial orders. And we're seeing what's happening. And you said, Stephen Miller should be locked up, put in jail for contempt of court. Will Stephen Miller be locked up? No. I don't believe that Stephen Miller would, because Pam Bondi's not going to allow it, because Pam Bondi is Trump's lackey, and Stephen Miller is good friends with Trump or whatever. And so she's going to protect Trump's, friends, political advisors, whatever. So, again, who then enforces things like contempt of court if Pam Bondi, the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, is more than willing to ignore the courts and not do her job in sending the U.S. Marshals to hold people in contempt? So, again, how do we fix that? I don't know. I don't know how we fix that.
That's the thing. You guys are in a constitutional crisis right now.
Yep. We are.
And people are saying, "Oh, well, we could possibly be in a." You already are in a constitutional crisis.
Yep.
You guys are not holding Trump to the laws of the land, and you're letting him get away with shit. There's no two ways about it. So there's only two outcomes: either the judiciary, holds his feet to the fire and actually makes him stop, or when people have had enough, you guys are going to have a fucking civil war on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not looking forward to either. I would prefer the judiciary actually get off their asses and do something, but you know what? I don't know. And the other problem is that because he's empowered the maggots to threaten these judges, and the fact that Trump has gotten away with doxing these judges as well as their assistants, and he wasn't punished for that.
Nope.
Is why you're where you are right now, because you talk a good game, but man, you do not fucking deliver.
Well, part of that thing was
language.
Part of the whole thing is Merrick Garland not acting quickly enough to try and get these cases done. But of course, then Donald Trump got stupidly lucky when he got Judge Cannon to be both.
I don't think that was luck, Dan. I'm sorry, I don't believe that was luck.
I don't understand how a federal judge would be assigned under Biden administration and have it not be luck. That's the thing that I'm thinking. But I don't know how.
Not to mention the conflict of interest. So she should have automatically disqualified herself from it because she's not a real judge. She's a fucking hack. There's no two ways about it.
I mean, I've covered how she's a hack and she has no idea what she's talking about, and she's been overruled almost every damn time. But the fact that, it's regardless of whether or not it was luck or not, he still got her twice, and that enabled him to get away from that case, especially when and the worst thing was that she referred in her ruling that kind of dismissed the case was she ruled that based off of Justice Thomas's dissent in one of the rulings. I forget the exact ruling, but he basically, I think it was his dissent in hearing a case, because he didn't feel that we should have that people should have the ability to bring these class action suits about rights or whatever, that you have to bring the suits yourself. You can't bring it as part of a group. And he was we should have never done
then that. And SCOTUS gave him the immunity clause. So yeah. I mean, you guys have really fucked yourselves. You put yourself in a corner, and you can't get out unless you actually fight your way out. So I don't know what's going to happen. That's what worries me, because you were the example to the world of how, we're supposed to be the example of democracy and how cooler heads should prevail, and that through negotiated rationality, wars could be prevented, trade deals could be made that benefit both parties, and all of that has gone down into the crapper now, because you elected the biggest idiot in the fucking world who announced that he was a snake, and you let him in anyway.
Yep. But and the thing is that almost the thing that I think might have to happen, which sucks, is that we're just going to have so much pain that even his most diehard supporters are going to have to say, fuck him. Because, I mean, you're seeing examples like it's in little bits and pieces there. Like, I think we discussed on the show previously, but there was the one guy who was importing grain, I think, from Canada, because that was the closest person to get grain from. And then all of a sudden he got the tariff bill. He got the amount added to his overall taxes on his bill that, you know, he was going to have to pay more. And he was like, I can't afford this. This is now too expensive. He was like, well, the other people should have to eat this. And they're like, no. And so now he's suffering because of Donald Trump's policies. So basically, more people are going to have to suffer in order for them to get them to do something. And maybe that would be enough if enough people are suffering, which sucks because I don't want anybody to suffer. But if enough people are suffering, especially enough people in red states who are suffering, that might cause their people to be like, we're not fucking voting for you anymore unless you do something about this shithole that we're in, i.e. 86 the president via impeachment. And then that's the only way to do it. Of course, there's the other. I mean, you have to. I mean, if the Democrats were magically able to get a majority in the House and get enough people to convict in the Senate, who knows? But I'm not holding my breath on that at all because anybody.
Well,
can
you
block
can't
it.
count on the Republicans to do anything. That's the problem. They are obstructionists. They are not governors. They like to play cosplay and pretend to do stuff, but they don't actually do anything. And the only reason that anything gets done is because the government agencies are have professionals who know what the deal is and how to do it. You know, it's not because the governor makes shit happen. It's the other way around. And the only ones that actually do anything are the ones with Democratic governors because they know how the system. A lot of them are some of the highest educated people out there. I mean, they have law degrees. They majored in constitutional law, and they know how the government agencies work and who's in charge of what, and you know where the funding comes from, and all the other things. And the Republicans are like, oh, we've decided to cut this and this and this. Why? Because Trump told me to, and Elon Musk told me to, because they say it's unnecessary, and we haven't starved to death yet. It might happen, though, but we haven't starved to death yet. And, you know, I don't know what you're going to do. You know, I liken the Republicans to basically preschoolers trying to do nuclear physics experiments. They're not qualified to do jack shit, and they know it. They know it. But it's all cosplay, it's all pretend, and it's all because they get their marching orders from billionaires who don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves.
Right. I had to argue with somebody today on Facebook today over the fact that, you know, somebody was trying to call Trump a populist. I'm like, he's not a populist. If anything, he's a faux populist because you can't be a billionaire, you know, who does all the crap that he's doing and be a populist. And if he's doing what the people want them to do, well, if the people said, you know, that people are gullible because he's not really going to do he's anything that Donald Trump does that might happen to be approved by one of his, you know, low educated people that he said he loved after the 2016 Nevada primary is just a coincidence. Like, he doesn't actually care about those things, but if something his voters want happens, it's just a coincidence because he's more concerned about how he's going to enrich himself, enrich his friends, enrich his buddies, and also, I guess, you know, help Musk become the first world's trillionaire or whatever. Because,
you know what he's going to do, right? He's going to fly off in that Qatari jet into the sunset with all of his assets, you know, all of his grifting assets, and he's going to leave the country because he's not going to want to face accountability after this is all said and done.
Right.
You know, we all know what the end game is here, you know. So, you know, I'm not endorsing it, but I'm just saying, you know, there's some really dark thoughts and actions that may have to occur to stop this in its tracks and to make people think twice about doing the wrong things, you know.
Well, unfortunately,
this is coming from a Canadian who's a pacifist.
some of the people who are doing the wrong things, I think it's bold to suggest that they are capable of thought, because most of them are just mindless trolls who just follow whatever it is that Donald Trump wants them to do or say. They have there's no independent thought process there whatsoever, which is one of the reasons why we are in the mess that we're in. Is because people are just gonna fall in line, follow behind. Like one time, way back in 2004, when I ran for Congress, I was talking to somebody who I work with, and I asked for their vote, and they're just like, "No, I have to vote for whoever the Republican Party tells me to vote for." I'm like, "Why? Why do you have to? Why can't you think for yourself? Why can't you study the issues by yourself?" Nope, have to vote for the Republican.
But that's America in a nutshell. Yep. You're a bumper sticker thought limited society. You know, if it isn't make America great again, oh, that's as far as I can think, and oh, that sounds great. You know, it's like, why? You know, like if that's the limit of your thought, then you're an idiot.
Yep.
I'm amazed that you can tie your own shoes.
I've said that and various other things to those people many times in the past, 10 years or so now, from Trump starting his running to now. Like I've said that comment or variations of that a lot of times, because I don't understand how these people can turn on their phones, can access their computers, know how to again, tie their shoes, put their pants on. It doesn't make any sense how they're able to, how they can function in life while being so dumb and while allowing themselves to be so manipulated. And one of the worst things is that you have all the poorly educated who don't know better and should know better but don't. Then you have the other people like the Jeff Carrers of the world, the guy whose show that I pull clips of, who should know better but will still, follow along with the grift because he knows the rubes want to hear him say all the crap that's in support of Donald Trump. So
yeah, but you know what my fear is? Is that we are entering a society of AI. Right. And this is where the surveillance society goes to the extreme. And, and you think it's bad now. Wait till, because I can see it coming. Trump is going to demand that everything have security cameras on it and that it's all hooked up to a network with an AI computer that basically monitors your social media, your phone calls, your spending habits, your everything, and they're gonna determine whether or not you're worthy to live in society or not.
Right.
And that's the scary thing, because I'm sorry, but if you need AI is supposed to be a tool. It's not supposed to be the decision maker of everything that happens, because the problem is there's somebody that's telling the AI what to do as well. AI is not independent. It's basically human programmed responses to defined questions. Yep. And that's what scares the fuck out of me. I like Hal and I like where he's going with the AI stuff, but it scares the fucking shit out of me, because I don't see a good outcome from this, because it's not being used currently right now to do things like find a cure for cancer, or to get rid of misinformation on social media, or to debunk anti-vaxxers or any of the other stuff. You tell me.
Well, the scary thing about the AI,
you know what I think?
The scary thing about the AI thing, though, is that there's I don't know if you heard this one. Anthropic's new Claude Opus 4 model was prompted to act as an assistant at a fictional company and was given access to emails with key implications. The emails implied that the AI system was set to be taken offline and replaced. The second set of emails, however, is where the system believed that it gained leverage over the developers, fabricated emails showing that the engineer tasked with replacing the system was having an extramarital affair, and the AI model threatened to expose him. So artificial intelligence defended itself by threatening to expose the creator about an affair that he allegedly had, even though the evidence was that not true and that he wasn't having an affair. But they made the AI think he had an affair, so it not only just said, I don't want to, whatever. It said, I will blackmail you if you try and get rid of me. And I'm like, these people have never read Asimov. They've never read anything having. Reading for them is very difficult, I'm sure. But
well, you know what? I've been rewatching Person of Interest, and that's where I saw so many parallels, and it's literally like the script coming to life,
right?
Where we are right now, and it's scary as fuck. It really is, because there are really bad people behind these things, and they've got more money than God already, and they don't come up with good ideas. They come up with, how do I make another $1 billion? And it's like, what do you need another fucking $1 billion for?
Right. Well,
nobody else has any fucking money. When everybody else is poor, your money will be meaningless.
But they don't care. I think they just view everything like they're fine, because they figure one day if they get enough technology, then they can go be the Jetsons up in space while everybody else lives down here in the Stone Age, like the Flintstones. So, that's that. Although I did love Person of Interest as a show. However, the fact that it has Jim Caviezel, he went batshit crazy. Because he used to be one of my favorite actors, and then he went all batshit crazy. I didn't care about the Jesus role in Passion of the Christ, even though Mel Gibson's a fucking wackaloon too. But then he started pushing that. I have one of the parodies that I made on this channel was based on his The Sound of Freedom or whatever, and I did it to The Sound of Silence, Disturbed's version, and go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, he also was pushing like anti-Semitic bullshit, going back to the earlier on at the beginning of your call who was in the chat. It was, just spreading around anti-Semitic BS because, they believe it's true. And they allow themselves to hear what these bigots are saying. And then when you attack the bigot like Candace Owens and you say exactly what it is that she said, they'll be like, well, she didn't say that. She didn't say. If she said she didn't say that, so I believe her. I'm like, we didn't listen to the words. Like, come on. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like it's like we're talking English and they're hearing French. Because they exactly. Nice pun. But the thing is that they don't want to acknowledge what the language means. They have already decided that their interpretation is the truth. And that's the thing. They have interpreted lies as the truth because it's an alternative definition that works in their favor. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't work out. In the end, it's always the same. Oh, well, climate change is a fake. No, it isn't. We're having more storms, more hurricanes, more tornadoes, more heating problems. Where is all the energy going to come from that's going to be necessary to live in an air-conditioned environment because it's too fucking hot to be outside anymore?
Right.
They are so short-sighted and they don't believe anything. It's
now
frustrating
as
hell.
Now with Doge, trying to, and Project 2025 trying to do all their shenanigans with the NOAA and all the other, National Weather Service or whatever, and taking away the people from that. Like there were people from that huge, was it Kansas storm or whatever, where the huge tornado blew through, and they didn't have the amount of workers that they would have had, and if they would have, maybe more people would have been notified and more people could have been saved, etc. But that's their goal. They don't care about that. They don't care about by reducing the amount of people in those agencies, people are less likely to be convinced that there is real global climate change happening, and they're just going to listen to the corporate billionaires who just want to make as much money as possible, strip mining the earth of everything possible, and not and not giving a crap
Well,
about what
I mean-
happens to everybody else in the process. Again, one of the things I was going to bring up when the whole did BlackRock really sue United Healthcare or not was one of the comments from Keynes. Was that Keynes said in the long term everybody is dead. Basically, he was kind of advocating for government to only look at short-term solutions because you can't necessarily know how the long term is going to play out. But in reality, we should be looking to how our actions may very well affect the long term, because we're still going to be alive in a lot of the long term, and then so are our children and grandchildren, etc. And we need to leave them. We should be leaving them a better place, but under people like Trump, we're not going to. Anyway,
yeah, but that's Ayn Rand. That's Ayn Rand thinking. I mean, it's a psychopath thinking that fuck everyone else. I don't care. I don't follow the rules or whatever. And in the end, her only saving grace was to live off the last of her lives on Social Security, because, she had basically fucked everybody over, and the people that she had in her camp realized that she wasn't worth giving money to anymore. And, she ended up dying, poor and destitute.
Right.
But you still had Paul Ryan there going, "Oh, you should read Atlas Shrugged. It's a brilliant book." And it's like, anyone who's read that book says it's the most confusing piece of shit out there, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, it's just, this was the thing. She was advocating, saying that empathy was a weakness, and it's like, no, empathy is what makes us human and allows us to survive as a society. Plain and simple. It's not rocket science. It's how we survive as a species. And all the rest of the stuff we do without deep thought and insight is destroying the planet, because we're so obsessed with fucking money at the expense of other creatures as well as the environment and everything else, that we're just basically speeding our way to the grave,
Right.
But anyway, I
was actually probably going to end the show soon anyway, because of the fact that I am starting to get tired because I had a very long day and I didn't get to sleep much last night either. So
no worries.
No worries.
Again, I went on way too long anyway.
No, you did. You're
know.
good. Hey, you save my vocal cords sometimes when I, after doing the bad Queen impression, sometimes it's good to save my vocal cords too, right? So anyway, thank you again, Big Hook, for calling. You're always welcome to call anytime, and anybody else is also welcome to call anytime.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much.
And I'm sorry if I screamed at you too much.
I'm good. I expect everybody from outside this country to be yelling at every American, regardless of whether or not they actually voted, because maybe we all could have done better. Who knows? But I mean, look, I'm also been saying that the media has sucked forever, and especially recently, I've been talking about how the media sucks, but I don't even have 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I don't have that much of a reach to actually get anywhere. So, but that's why. But the media should be doing all this crap, and they're not. So this is why.
Yeah, but here's your problem, Dan. You only catch the attention of real intellectuals. That's the problem. So you're not going to catch the dumb ones, or the ones that are too lazy to engage, because they just want to live. They want to do the ignorance is bliss lifestyle, and and they think it'll never ever catch up to them. And by the time it does, unfortunately, it will be too late for them as well as everyone else.
Very true. All right, so I'll let that be your last one. Thank you so much for the call, and again, you're welcome to call back anytime. So have a great one.
Okay. Yeah, you too, Dan. Take care, everybody.
You too.
Bye.
All right, that was Big Hook. I think we are going to go ahead and shut off the phone lines, because I'm probably going to end soon. I'll respond to some of the comments in the chats before ending. And when we end, we'll end with the words of redneck wisdom again, so that the Twitch people can have a not hard out, and then we'll do the regular normal on YouTube as well. Josh wants to raid Riverboat Jack. Sure, we could raid River. Is it on Twitch over? Is that over on YouTube? I'm guessing. But anyway, sure, we could go ahead and do a Liberal Dan raid on Riverboat Jack. Sounds good. Let's see. Flooded by Dragon. Rich people and corporations have an addiction to greed. Presidents, boards, and stockholders must have profits every year. More and more profits. Exactly. That's it. That's why I've used the dragon analogy, because they hoard all the gold. They don't want to let any gold go. But then it gets so fat they can't even get out the cave. So they end up harming everybody, and everybody gets screwed because of their greed. Greed is what causes United Healthcare to not, cover to not cover enough people who need to be covered with their health insurance claims. And then other people sue United Health because of how they didn't to let them know that it might have an adverse effect, because they're now paying out more claims supposedly. And now the bottom line is lower, so they don't want to invest in it. It's like, this is why capitalism fucking sucks, and why we need a better system. And, so people want to question my leftness or whatever sometimes, but I'm like, I'm sitting here saying that capitalism sucks. What else do you want? Anyway, so thank y'all very much for watching. I did have a terrible comment in my head to make based off of some of the things that were going on in the chat. I think I'm just going to self-censor that one. Because I just don't know. I just don't know. Let's see. Although Chris is glad that ours is gone because his camera's outside because he would show up unannounced. Now we know that he can't show up. Well, because he was. I can't bring myself to say it. I usually don't have a filter. I usually say terrible things, no problem. I just can't bring myself to make the comment. But I'm glad. If anything was needed to make your life better, I'm glad he decided to do it himself or whatever. But anyway, so hope you don't hope for anything to happen. See, capitalism is the best system. If you don't buy their products, you control the money. But if they're the only ones who are producing the products, and they want to get down to monopoly, and only one person is producing the products, then you either buy the products or you go without. That's the problem with capitalism. Yeah, so many corporations have gone out of business since there was no way to get the profits they want. It was mass. That's when they get their golden parachutes, let the corporations die, get a whole bunch of money, then create a new business, and lather, rinse, repeat. One of the many reasons. Capitalism gave us short sales on stocks. If there's any reason why you should hate capitalism, it's because you have a stock market where you can actively bet against the stock to go down by selling somebody else's share with a promise to buy later. Whoever came up with that was a con man. I'm sure Donald Trump would have thought of it, because even though Donald Trump is an idiot on any other form of thought processes, he knows how to do a con. Because he's a con man, he knows how to do it. So, anyway, so thank you all very much. Sorry, it's OT 1984 for you came in late or you chatted late or whatever. I don't know if you've been listening all this time, but appreciate you commenting, chatting, or whatever in the chat. We can definitely talk about more capitalism stuff and why I believe it ultimately sucks later. But anyway, thank you all very much. Again, we'll be watching or listening to the Words of Redneck Wisdom again, and then once that's done, Twitch will end, and then we will do the regular out on YouTube. So thank you all very much for watching. nerdydan.com tomorrow night, Tuesday nights, twitch.tv/nerdydan.com, and on Wednesday we'll be back with this show, same bad time, same bad channel. I may actually make a change to something pertaining to that. We will see. I don't know. I'll let you know about when I make a decision on that. So anyway, thank you all very much. Hopefully sometime soon we'll also have the t-shirts to order. My stepsister is working on that as well. So thank you all very much. Have a good one. Peace out.
And now, Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio.
I'm going to have to correct you a little bit on the media sleeping through the scandal of the Biden administration. They were complicit in the fraud. As a matter of fact, they orchestrated the fraud, from the stolen election big lie to January 6th to COVID to Hunter's laptop, Russian disinformation. They were the main perpetrators, Jeff. Listen, they control what we see. They control what we hear. They control what we discuss. They control what we fear. The information we're given shapes the reality we live in. A word to the wise: open your eyes and see through their lies. Thank you, Jeff.
And this concludes Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
I like turtles.